Welcome to Simply Vegan and Wellness in Memphis. Today we're going to be making a fruit pizza, which is a really festive thing to do for the holidays and for work get-togethers or family get-togethers. Let's begin with making our pie crust. Very simple way to make the pie crust. We're going to put everything in the food processor, but if you don't have a food processor, you could use a pastry blender. This is just the fast and easy way to do it. So I have 1 cup of whole wheat flour, 3/4 of a cup of unbleached white. Now if you don't want to use unbleached white flour, you could use oat flour, or you could even just go ahead and make a gluten-free rice-based crust or an almond crust or something like that. Then we're going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/3 of a cup of oil, 1/2 cup of water, and then we're just going to go ahead and pulse this until it forms into a ball. Very easy way to make a pie crust. As you can see, it formed very nicely. It's a nice soft dough, and we'll go ahead and scrape around the edges there and get that all ready to roll. So I'll just clean it up like this. Very fast, very easy. Now before we roll our pie crust, we want to go ahead and wet the countertop so that our plastic wrap will stick to it really nicely. So let's just, there's my oven warmed up for cooking the pie crust for our fruit pizza. Let's get that out. And just get this down on here. By wetting that, it will stick very nicely. There we go. All right, let's get this dough out of here. Be careful, the S-blades on the food processors are very, very sharp. And we don't want to handle this too much. We just want to get it so that the edges are not rough and wrinkly on this. Okay, time to roll. Now, if you'd like to help with the non-sticking, you can go ahead and cover this again with some plastic like this. And you may need to add some more later. But this again will keep it from sticking, and then you don't have to add a lot of flour. If you add a lot of flour to this, you will have white spots on your crust, on your fruit pizza, and we really don't want to have that. I'm just going to roll this out like that. And we'll spread it a little bit more like this. You could also make a biscuit recipe. Sometimes I use what I call my Dick's biscuits to make a fruit pizza. It has a little bit more of a shortcake mouthfeel when you do that, but it does use less oil. You could also use any kind of if you had like a cookie recipe, like a vanilla cookie recipe that was somewhat healthy or at least vegan, you could use that as your base. You just need something that's going to hold up when you slice it so that you can get the pieces out nicely. Okay, so we're going to roll this a little bit bigger than I know that we need. There we go. Try to get it even so that it will cook evenly. There we go. And I'm going to take my pan that I want to use on it and kind of evaluate it like this. And then I'm going to be turning it to flute it. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut a little ways out all the way around from the pan, because there is a little lip there. And with these leftover scraps, if you have children, they might like to play in that and make some of their own little pies or something, but they could also make crackers out of this. Just roll it really thin, score it, and then maybe add a sprinkle of onion powder or garlic salt or any of your favorite seasonings on that. Just pull this away. Now you're probably wondering, how are we going to get this onto the pan? Well, we've got the saran wrap down here, so it's going to make it really easy to get this on the pan. Just slip your hand underneath. And there you go. Nice and simple. If you're making a pie, a regular pie, you could always roll it up around your rolling pin and then unroll it like that into your pie pan. And that would also work, of course, for doing your top crust. So we've just got it like so, kind of evenly all around the edge. And I'm going to just gently turn these edges just so that we don't have that rough cut all around the edge. And that will also give us something to flute if we wanted. If you didn't want to bother with this, you could just take a fork and press gently all around the edge of the pan, and then you'd have another different kind of design there with the fork tines making some little lines in the crust. All right, we'll just get this all turned. It's not exactly perfect here, but homemade has that look, doesn't it? All right, if you want to make it prettier, then you can go ahead and flute it, just taking your fingers and pushing in between the edges all the way around, like so. My mother was a great pie maker, and she always fluted the edges of her pie crust, and they looked so beautiful. She made an amazing apple pie that would have been a prize winner in any county fair, I'm sure, and it tasted fantastic. Okay. There we are. So we have our fluted edge. This is going to look very pretty when we have our fruit pizza and all of our fruit in there. Now, this will bubble if you do not poke some holes in it. The heat will cause it to bubble up, and we don't want it to do that. It needs to lay flat. Okay, this is going to go in the oven, 50 degrees for 10 to 15 minutes. We just want to make sure that it's baked. See you in a little bit. So now we're ready to make the icing or the frosting on the fruit pizza. You could use a pudding mix. You could use a cream cheese. I have a cream cheese recipe in my cookbook. But today we're going to use an adapted tofu cheesecake filling. So we've got our blender. And we're going to go ahead and use Morinu tofu or silken tofu, which is a very soft tofu that has almost no flavor. It'll take on the flavor of whatever you are doing with it. So I'm just going to go ahead and drain that. There's just usually a small amount of water in there. And then we'll go ahead and put this in the blender. Make sure we get it all out. And then to add to the sweetness of this without having to add a lot of sugar, we're going to use pineapple. Now we need 1/3 of a cup of this juice. So we're going to take 1/3 right from the can. Put that in there. And then we're going to use about 1 heaping cup of pineapple. You could use tidbits. Crushed does not work quite as well, I think, because there's so much extra juice in the crushed. But if that's all you have, you could probably put it in a sieve and let it drain a little bit. And then just go ahead and use the pineapple if that's all you have. But we're going to blend it up anyway, so it's not going to be that essential to be what size the pineapple is. We just want a slightly heaping cup of the pineapple. So if you want to be an exact measurement, it might be 1 1/4 cups. Then to thicken that up, we'll go ahead and add 1/4 cup of cornstarch. And we have 1/4 cup of sugar, and this is just an unbleached organic sugar. Then I've got some clear vanilla. You can use any type of vanilla that you like. This is a non-alcohol vanilla, and that is 2 teaspoons. Then I have 1 tablespoon of sunflower oil, and I like to use sunflower because it's non-GMO and it also has a mild flavor. I have 1/4 teaspoon of salt. That is Celtic salt or Celtic salt, but any salt will do. And then 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, which gives it a very nice flavor. And we are just going to go ahead and put that in our blender and blend it until it is smooth. Now, because this is normally a cheesecake recipe, that would cook in the oven and cook that cornstarch off and make it thick, but we're not going to be baking that fruit pizza, so we're going to go ahead and pour that into a pan, and we'll just go ahead and heat this on the stove to thicken that cornstarch up and to thicken this filling up for the cheesecake. So let's go over to the stove. All right, this is going to take a little while, but we want to get this to the point where it's actually simmering so that the cornstarch is cooked off and thick. Put a little light on that. How's that? And you're going to be stirring for a little while to get this to a very good simmer till that cornstarch is thick. Okay. So you can see that it has thickened up some, and it's at a simmer. We want to make sure that it is definitely hot enough, otherwise that cornstarch flavor will not be cooked off. But that looks like it's thickened up, and so if it's thickened, it is probably hot enough. Now we have our pie crust here that has come out of the oven, and we're going to go ahead and quickly spread this in here before it forms any kind of a crust or anything like that on it. There we go. Now we didn't need all of that filling, so you can just put that in some little cups and maybe sprinkle some granola on it and have some fresh fruit with it, and it would be very delicious. Try to make this as smooth as you can so that when you go to put your fruit on top, it will have a nice presentation. It may not be perfect, but just try to get it smooth and even as you may. We're going to really fill that up with fruit once it has a chance to cool. Just get a little bit right there. There we go. All right, this will not take very long to cool. So I'm going to go ahead and chill this for a little while, and then we'll be back to decorate our fruit pizza. The pizza's been in the freezer for about 20 minutes. So as you can see, it's set up. And we've got a nice selection here. I've got some walnut halves. I have some walnut pieces. I divided them just so this would go quickly. I have grapes. Some we sliced the long way. Some we sliced round way. Those green grapes were jumbo, so we sliced them the opposite way. We've got some honey roasted peanuts, some almonds. We have some dried cranberries. These are 50% less sugar. A little bit of kiwi. And then our mandarin oranges and our pineapple tidbits fit the best on the pizza. And I just put a clean dish towel underneath, put some paper towels on the top, and we're letting those drain a little bit because you don't want any wet fruit on here. But you could also use strawberries, blueberries, dried blueberries. You could do a big variety of things. So let's get started. One of the things that we want to do is make sure that we really pack the fruit on. If you space it out too broadly, it doesn't have the same eye appeal. So let's start with something pretty. We'll put some mandarin oranges all around the edge here. And you want to make sure that you're getting them that are sort of consistent in size, and you don't want any broken pieces for this. You can put your broken pieces in a fruit salad if you want later for your breakfast the next day. This makes a lovely presentation at a social event, a brunch, or it could be served as a dessert at a fellowship meal or any other church office Christmas party. Very beautiful. The mandarin oranges have a lovely color. I have used dried blueberries, which also are very bright, vibrant, but you could also use fresh blueberries, fresh sliced strawberries. The fruits that don't do very well on this would be things like banana. These are too small. They don't look as good on here, so we want to try to find the larger pieces. Banana would tend to go brown. Apple would tend to go brown. You could use peach slices if you slice them thin. You don't want them a full peach slice. Okay, so we've got all our mandarin oranges around the edge. Now let's go ahead and we'll put some nuts and some grapes. I really like these little rounds here, these little pennies. So I think what I'll do is put 2 of those like that, and then I'm going to put a red grape there. Oops, that's going to be covered. No worry. If you drop a fruit in there, just pick it up, and we're going to be covering most of the tofu cheesecake filling. So if you make a little ding in it or something, it's not going to make that big of a deal. All right, we'll just go all the way around. Like I said, pack that fruit on as tightly as you can. Not only for the eye appeal, but also for the taste. The more fruit that you have in this, the sweeter this will be. And we're coming together. It's a lot of fun. If you had a group of people, you could come with the bases already made and a whole bunch of cut up fruit, and you could have a decorating party together, and it would be amazing to see the wide variety of designs that would come out of your fruit pizza decorating party. I often have made this with pudding, vanilla pudding instead, and that is quite nice as well. Okay. This is going quite nicely. Oh, look, it's going to work out perfectly here. We'll just get that one right there in the middle. If it doesn't come out perfectly for you, just rearrange it just a little bit. Okay, how about some nice almonds here? So I'm going to put them strategically right in front of those grapes. Get them all facing the same direction. And I also went through and chose almonds that did not have little dings on them. Sometimes they'll have a little spot where the brown coat of the almond has been nipped, and that will take away from the eye appeal, so we don't want any of that. As you're looking around your produce section, just look for the most colorful, beautiful fruit that you can find, and canned fruit does work quite well for this. Now, in between that, I think we'll put a little bit of pineapple. We could probably fit 3 pieces in there. For each one, 3 pieces of tidbits. You can see how tightly I'm putting this. When you get all done, you almost don't want to cut it because it looks so pretty, but it tastes very beautiful too. Okay. Okay, how about some nice honey roasted peanuts on here? Pack those on nice and tight. I really like honey roasted peanuts in oatmeal cookies. They're very nice with some raisins, especially if you don't want to use things like chocolate chips or carob chips or any other kind of chip that might have a hydrogenated oil in it. You could use raisins and honey roasted peanuts, and that would make it very nice. Whoops, I don't like the look of that one, so we're going to take that one out. Okay. Next layer. Next layer should be kiwi. I think we'll go, let's see, we want to have that consistent. So let's come around this way. I think we're going to have just enough for our kiwi. And then we could have a choice. We could either put a grape in the middle, we could put a few dried cranberries in the middle, and there you have it, a holiday fruit pizza that everybody should really enjoy. I hope you'll have a happy holiday.